That's a nice touch.
Yeah, let me just move this here. Okay.
Perfect. Like, I love it. Oh my God, we're wearing the same color shirt.
I know, I just changed to look like you.
Oh, it's
Not on purpose.
great.
I was already planning on looking like this.
Are you ready for your close-up? I am so excited to have today as our guest, Annie Lapin. I consider myself one of the presidents of the original Annie Lapin fan club. I believe I wrote about one of your first shows in LA. Is that right-ish?
Yeah, that is right.
It was in Santa Monica. I was immediately obsessed with your work and your wild eyes, your crazy, what goes on in that mind that has these rivers of and ribbons of color kind of fly out of you in the coolest ways. And welcome to the First Person Artist.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Annie has an incredible show up at the Miles McHenry Gallery in New York. And I happened to be there when it was opening and I surprised her, which is the second time that that's happened.
In New York.
In New York, right? And she also shows at Shulamit Nazarian Gallery in Los Angeles. And it's fascinating to watch the way your work has changed over the years, but yet it's still very Annie. So you're doing something that's pulling in the viewer, especially this painter, in such a deep way that I just want to live inside these paintings. So when did you know that you wanted to be an artist, and how did that all come about? Like, did you always know? Tell me about it.
I always was a person who made art, and I did it for fun and for myself and to escape. But I never, as a kid, I didn't imagine that one could be an artist. I didn't know that that was still a viable option for being a person who had a job. I just didn't imagine that. So I was really academically inclined as a kid. So I just imagined I would be in academia. And I went to college, and initially my major was archaeology, which actually makes a lot of sense for the kind of work that I do, because I love history and I love the cultural artifacts that are, populate our entire history. But I was really interested in Mesoamerican archaeology in particular. I think I just actually loved the art forms that come out of the Mayans and the Aztecs, and just the intense energy that feels like almost horrific, I think. But it's an ecstasy too. So I went down there and was, I was studying archaeology. I was learning from various teachers who all had different theories. But when I actually went down to work on a dig, I had this epiphany. I mean, among many things that I was just kind of like, the reality of this is very strange. It's super post-colonial. Like, why am I around these people? Like, why am I digging in the dirt for like the remains of a civilization when there's the civilization here? And I am coming from this fancy world of university, and I'm not helping this guy whose child is dying from malaria. Anyway, it was very weird and not for me.
Yeah, I by the way, I would have been like, there's too much dust.
There was a lot of bugs, but I didn't mind
a lot of dust. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the other part of archaeology is that I discovered that a lot of the passion that people have for it is basically how difficult life is on a dig, which is, how many scorpions do you have in your little pit that you're going to the bathroom in? But that's fun, but that wasn't like my passion. I would, so I had like all these disillusioning moments, and I realized that painting and art, I had been studying it throughout, and I kind of slowly was understanding that it could contain all of the stuff that I was really interested in, which was trying to understand try to understand what understanding is, and trying to understand who I am, trying to understand who we are, understand what our cultural artifacts mean, and what they are. So that's, and also memory. And anyway, so I started to just say that was my major, but I still didn't think it could be a career. I thought I would be a teacher.
Were your parents immigrants by chance? No? Because that's kind of like that was my situation. It was like, you can be anything you want as long as you're a doctor first. It wasn't really like, yeah, go be an artist, but to sort of like go to the moon.
Yeah. So then I stuck with it and, nearly quit a million times and maybe almost went to different kinds of medical fields. I got all the brochures to different things because I thought being an artist.
The post-bac pre-med program at Columbia.
Yeah. Yeah. But things kept happening that just meant that I wasn't going to quit, but it's a very daunting path. And I'm sort of a practical person who likes certainty. So it really didn't seem like a place that I could go to without becoming miserable, which I did become miserable. But it's still, it's also, it's confusing. I think when you're a younger person, what are you doing? But it's something that I am so happy that I came to it, because it's obviously what I'm supposed to be doing. So.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, by the way, can we just talk for a second about the painting on your right shoulder? It's just extraordinary. Yeah, like the landscape that's peering through the other landscape, and I think this is, I don't know if this is like a new dance move for you, but the way that your the edges are kind of feathered, that seems a little new, right? Or maybe you're just not finished.
This one
but
actually is taped. So like this tape will come off and create a hard edge.
Oh, but can we talk about how good it looks like without that hard edge?
I know.
I mean, do you ever look at it and say, maybe I should just like leave the tape on it? Because that looks kind of fantastic.
I know, I do love the tape. But what can you, I mean,
not the tape, just the feathering in between it. I mean, I don't mean to mess with it.
It's not something that I'm opposed to evolving. Right now there's been a lot of hard edges, but I'm interested in an evolution towards a little bit more of a looseness, maybe not for the next body of work, but it's something that's going to happen slowly, I think.
Before we met and talked and had dinner and became friends and everything like that, before all that, I remember that I was writing an essay on abstraction, and it was called The Painting Whisperer, and it was about your work. My fantasy was that you were like listening into this radio frequency that I couldn't hear, that like mere mortals couldn't hear, about where to go with your paintings. And this was when you were painting in a looser style. Anyway, I have the essay here. These were the types of paintings of yours that I was looking at the time. It was before you were using tape, or at least you weren't using it here.
Yeah, no, I wasn't using any tape.
And you had all these like, what are those people, and what the hell is going on, and what in you decided to like make this bar across it, like, right there. And I remember standing in front of this painting, and one of my life's biggest regrets is that I didn't buy it when I had the chance, because this is one of your first shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I was just like standing, and it's rather large, and I was like, how did she conjure this all? You always have these radiations coming out just compositionally that I think are really unique to you. And so I assumed that you were having this conversation, and you were like, mais non, you were like, pas du tout. It's every corner I turn is filled with sort of an anxiety, because I could see an infinite number of ways to go in every moment. So I changed the title after I interviewed you to The Painting Whisperer versus the Anxiety of Abstraction. And this is work from what, 15 years ago or something like that. This is like a while ago. So I think it's helpful to see where you were and where you are now, because now you've actually kind of like space traveled through many different galaxies since this work. But when you say, oh, I'm thinking of going looser, I think that's super compelling and interesting. Like, you always are in this state of looser versus more defined, more refined to loose again.
Yeah, I mean, well, so with that body of work and that time period, I am a person who crave certainty, but I'm not comfortable with uncertainty. But I also constantly do see a million decisions and also a million interpretations of the world. And my paintings were always a flow of consciousness. It's actually how I have always made the work, because it's just how I've always worked. It's almost like a guilty secret that I had for a long time, because the work was driven by that process of just, sometimes it would just be patterns on the canvas or random strokes, and then I would interpret those. And, for me, that allows me to think of it like what is a painting? And a painting to me is this object that is, laden with more memory than most objects. It is something that we all come to with just like an infinite memories of seeing this flat rectangle with things in it. And so I always was interested in that. I'm just interested in what is reality and what is the world. So a painting is a great object for kind of this idea of projection and the way that our mind like brings so much to everything that we interpret. And so I was always interpreting these marks, or even just I would make a very straight landscape and then reinterpret that and destroy it and paint it over it again and paint over again. And it's this like endless possibility of meanderings of the mind, and combined with abstract choices that are compositional or trying to make the thing interesting. And then there's this balance of finding a narrative in a way of a myth in a way that sort of like emerges in this sort of, now I can say it's visionary. Like, I'm not saying it was visionary, but it's like, it is almost like a vision. It is almost like you allow a voice to speak to you. But, and not that it really is, but I've just decided to frame it that way. I mean, you probably understand, painters understand, you have to allow something to come to you.
Yeah. I mean, well, when you said you would just make these marks and then find yourself having to apply language afterwards, it's interesting because in my dad's book, Art and Physics, Leonard Shlain's Art and Physics, he says that the scientists and the artists are saying the same thing in different languages, but the artist tends to say it first. That's kind of like if you were to summarize that book in just a couple sentences. And I find that what you saying that like you're out there, you're in the wilderness of your subconscious and your memory and your mind, and you're making all these marks. And then it's not until afterwards that you try to find language to describe necessarily what you're doing. And it's also because the art world kind of demands it, that we have to kind of create this narrative around it that they will understand. Do you know?
Oh yeah. I mean, of course, after grad school, I was driven by a certain kind of like fire that was just making the paintings, but you're still imbued with a certain kind of self-doubt that comes out of grad school, which is, forcing you to frame everything in a certain way. So I think I made that body of work that you saw very just kind of automatically and intensely. I had reasons for it. And again, like it does really authentically tie back to my interest in what is seeing and what is this world and how do we make sense of it, and just the layers of our history, and how that affects how we see things. But that idea is still central to my work, but it wasn't being communicated in that body of work. And, so I took a moment, I've actually became very disillusioned with that work and got frustrated and was just like, well, how do I tap into this idea again? And so that I reformulated, different ways of approaching that kind of automatic painting. And then I also just, I decided for a while, I hated all painting. So
well, no, but don't you find that in order to survive as an artist, it's not, Amber Heard, Johnny Depp, but it's still like a tumultuous relationship. And I'm constantly having to like break up with it in order to like come back to it and then fall in love again.
Yes.
I have to like, I'm like, it's like, depending on when I meet somebody, I'm like in some kind of state of being madly in love or angry or broken up.
Right. Yeah.
Or courting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've definitely had that rocky relationship, although I think I'm settling into some kind of like moment of happy family moment in my relationship with art.
Wisdom is so wonderful because you've done something before. And you can kind of more gracefully reintroduce things that you've had experience with in the past. As a painter, that's how I feel. Like I'm no longer like an adolescent, but
right. Well, I think I was just trying to get to the point, which was that, you know, that earlier work that was in your essay is this constant breaking down, destroying, rebuilding, and building a painting on top of a painting on top of a painting. And in some ways, it really is the same thing, but this work really is much more of a crisp version of that, so that it's sort of maybe a little bit more clear as to like what that mental process is.
let's pull it up. But I mean, these are just breathtaking. And the way this like mountain range is echoing, it seems to be kind of turning into a galaxy, and these treescapes. And tell us, let's start with this one. Tell us about it. And if you have words for it, and you don't have to have words for it.
Well, I mean, I don't.
Well, then that's fine. And the title is Tended Unintendeds. Oh, by the way, there's very few painters who are excellent at naming their paintings, and you're one of them.
Oh, that's very kind of you.
So you are excellent. And do you have a trick for it?
Do
you consult poetry or lyrics or something?
I think about the words for the painting the same way I think about the images, sort of like the words are sort of these abstract things which have a sound, and then also they have a meaning. And then I try to use them in a way where you wouldn't expect that meaning. So like, you know, the sky painted on my painting is a very deep space. It has a meaning, but it's also this abstraction in the space of the painting, but then it's also becomes a volume because there's a shadow behind it. So similar to like tended unintendeds, you're using tended twice, and they're two words that actually have almost nothing to do with each other, but then if you put them together, they become a strange narrative, but you're also comparing about why are they even both the same.
Was I hallucinating, or could this be a limb of some?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a foot. I mean, there's 2 feet.
That's right. Okay, good. There's 2 feet. Yeah.
There's a tiny one going into the river.
Oh, of course. Oh yeah, that's fabulous. And so tell us about the integration of figures and animals. Like this is a horse situation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Horses and figures, and you're still starting with these pours. I mean, I know I'm asking you to tell a lot, but can you tell a little bit about your pour process?
Yeah, so the pours are the first thing that happens on the canvas.
Are you doing it on the back of the canvas? And then
sometimes I do the back. I don't, and I used to do the back a lot because it created a different texture. And it almost had like an interesting way of seeming farther behind. So some of the paintings in the show are poured from behind. I don't do it as much now because it actually requires me to restretch the painting so many times because I have to turn it back and forth and like.
And you're using a vinyl when you do that, right? A vinyl
acrylic.
Acrylic. Yeah.
And so, yeah, so now I've learned how to make some more textures by doing the pours, and I don't have to go from behind, which is nice.
Is that flacking?
No, it's actually just a very black matte.
Is that Vanta black?
No,
that's a crazy dark black.
Really raw. It's totally raw canvas. Normally I work on linen, but this canvas, when it absorbs the black, just gets almost like velvet.
Wow, it's super cool.
Nice. Yeah, so I'm excited to make some black paintings.
Okay, so going back, and that's what these lead the way, right? So these outlines. So you're looking, so you have all these pours going on, and you think to yourself, I bet you I could link that with the tail of a horse.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit slower than that. I mean, I can share my screen. Should I try that?
Yeah. I believe every artist should learn Photoshop. And so I just launched even a class for artists in particular, from an artist point of view. And so I'm really excited to see you show this in Photoshop because it's such a great way to and mostly artists are here right now. So it's such a great way to engage with what you're doing in the studio in a new way. And so I'm thrilled to see that you pull it up in this. So
Yeah,
this
it's
looks like a Frankenthaler. Was that the beginning?
right.